recorded in front of a live studio audience.
The way I see it, if you're going to build a time machine into a car, you exist to continue your existence. What's the point? Quite an experience to live in fear, isn't it? Cyberspace, a consensual hallucination experienced daily by billions of legitimate operators in every nation, by children being taught mathematical concepts, a graphic representation of data abstracted from banks of every computer in the human system. Unthinkable complexity. The way I see it, a consensual if you're going to build a time machine into a car, your existence, quite an experience to live in fear, isn't it? To build a time machine into a car, continue your existence.
Let's just think it's 2077 and we can do some cyberpunk stuff. So without wasting another second, let's start. So I've got my photo here, posing, sitting on the ground from a very nice angle, and I've already cut it out of the background using the pen tool. That was a boring process, so I have not included it in this video. You already know how to do that. And I have just placed it on the right position, and as you can see, I have the shadow as well. I have extracted the shadow from the original photo. I also have a motorcycle here in accordance with the perspective. I downloaded it and I'll use it in this project because it's dope, man. Why not? Believe it or not, I also extracted the shadows of this motorcycle too, so I don't have to paint shadows anymore. Put the motorcycle in the right spot as well. As usual, the first thing that I did was removing the colors so I can just look only at the brightness levels. So I created a solid color adjustment layer and changed the blend mode to color. I looked a little bright in comparison with the background, so with the help of a levels adjustment layer, I darkened myself. Put the motorcycle in the right spot as well. Then I created a 50% gray solid color adjustment layer and put it on luminosity blend mode so I can see the colors. Then I created a curves on top of it and I boosted the colors by creating an S curve. I looked so freaking different than the background.
No! God, please, no! No!
I had to adjust my colors, and I did that using another curves. I clipped it to myself, and I just played with those curves to make me look more bluish, cyan kind of look. And I repeated the process for the motorcycle as well.
Colors matched.
Here comes my favorite part of every composite, painting highlights. I created a layer and I clipped it to myself. I changed the blend mode to soft light, then again with a soft brush and appropriate colors, I started painting on myself to create that like illusion of this ambient light. Just dab here and there on the model or on anything that you want to match the lighting of. It is gonna match the ambient light pretty well. I clipped another layer to myself and I started painting the real highlights. If you don't know how to paint highlights or if you want to know how I do it, make sure to check my previous tutorial about painting highlights in Photoshop only using a mouse. I'll put the link on the top right hand side of the screen. I'll put it in the description as well. Make sure to check it out. Don't forget about this motorcycle. You need to paint highlight on this thing too. So I clipped a layer to it and I did the blend mode technique. Just remove this highlights from the very dark parts using the blend if and painted on this bike to blend it more with the scene. Messed around with the opacity a little bit. Then I brought in some futuristic glasses and I needed to replace them with my own glasses because I just wanted to look more dope and more futuristic. So very carefully I resized them and positioned them onto my face. And as usual I did some color correction and fixed the lighting very easily. There were some white fringes around these glasses, so I had to remove them and I did it easily by clipping a layer and painting with a brush on the edges to remove those white fringes. They looked ugly, dude. Obviously, as you can see, the glasses is not looking right because you can see its handles through these glasses. Like, it's obvious. I had to remove them. And as you can tell already, some cloning and painting with a brush gets the job done. You just gotta be patient, you know? You cannot just hurry it up. It takes time and it is normal. So take your time with it. Then I was able to find this colorful band. I don't know what it is, but I found it online in Google Images and I thought it'd be cool if I could just use this as my wristband. So why not? I painted some shadows for it so it looks more realistic. I also needed some shadows beneath my glasses too. So I painted them in by sampling a dark tone from my skin and painting on a layer set to multiply blend mode. I always do my shadows on a multiply blend mode because it's the best. You can use darken as you wish, but my choice is multiply. It gives a better result. Now it's finally time to do some lighting magic. I wanted to lit up my wristband, so I duplicated it and I set the blend mode to screen. But before that, I rasterized the layer by right-clicking on it and choosing rasterize layer because I want to apply some blur to it and I don't want it to be a smart object because it might take up a lot of RAM. So you might want to rasterize it before you apply the blur. Then go to blur and choose Gaussian blur and blur it to about 5 pixels. Then repeat the process. Duplicate the layer again, but this time give it some more blur, about 30-40 pixels. After that, duplicate it again and give it even more blur, somewhat about 70 to 80 pixels. When you're done, click on all those 3 layers and hit Ctrl E on your keyboard to merge all of them into one layer and change the blend mode to screen because when you merge it, it goes back to normal. So you want to put it on the screen again. To add some light to my glasses too, I also created a layer and put it on screen blend mode, sampled the colors from the glasses itself and just painted on them very slightly with a low flow to add a little bit more shine to them. Well, not shine, just glow, you know, make them glow. Then it was time to light up this motorcycle. So what I did was I used my technique. I created a layer. I hit Shift F5 on my keyboard, I chose black and filled it up with black, then I put the layer blend mode to color dodge. Then I grabbed my brush with a white color, made sure that my flow and opacity are both set to 100% and just like that, doop, it's on, easy as that. I did the same for the other lights as well. Then I brought in a light flare overlay and I used it on this motorcycle's light bulb to make it like more attractive. 2 more overlays for the little lights. Then I brought in a light trails stock image that I found on some free website and I put it beneath everything else. Then I flipped it to match the perspective of my image, and I changed the blend mode to screen. Obviously, it was too small for my image, so I had to stretch it by holding shift and dragging the sides of it to fill up the whole background. By putting a layer mask, I erased the unnecessary parts. Then I had to make it glow, so I duplicated it and I applied the layer mask and put some Gaussian blur on it, somewhere about like 8 pixels. Then I repeated the process again as before. Again, I go to blur, Gaussian blur, apply some more blur, about 20-30 pixels. I duplicate it again. I go to blur, Gaussian blur, and apply some more blur, about 70-80 pixels. And after that, I duplicate it one more time, and I go to blur, Gaussian blur, apply a high amount, somewhere about 200 pixels. Then I merge everything together and I set the blend mode to screen. Then it was time for me to add some depth of field, so I selected the background image and I used tilt shift to create a nice blur effect on the background. And obviously when you blur the background, you have to blur everything else accordingly that is not in the focus of the camera. So I had to blur the light trail, the motorbike, everything that was in the background, and I did them with Gaussian blur. And you already know what to do. To create the lighting, put a layer on the screen blend mode, get your soft brush with a low flow and opacity, just dab. And try sampling different colors in accordance with different areas of the image. Don't rush it, always take your time. If you're tired, get some rest and get back to work later, because this needs to be done very gently. You have to enjoy what you're doing. If you're not, then you are not doing it right. I also needed some highlights and light leaks on the background, so I created a layer beneath the model and I repeated the process. Try and experiment with different blend modes, since it will look better if you just use a combination of them. For example, here I thought maybe using linear dodge and screen together may look awesome, and it did. Then I thought I need some fog in the background, so I easily created that using a free fog brush that I downloaded off of a free website called Brush Easy. And I blurred the fog layer a little bit and reduced the opacity. You don't want that much fog, it makes everything disappear. The final part of every composite, as you know, is camera raw filter. Press Ctrl-Alt-Shift-E on your keyboard to get a clone stamp visible layer of everything that's visible on the canvas. Then navigate to Filter, Camera Raw Filter. And I did some basic adjustments in here to just blend everything together even more. For more and better content, please subscribe and like this video. Until next episode, peace out.